Solar clock. They have the method. Maybe comment to speed or whatever. So, let's just do it like that.
We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. The first item will be roll call.
Brown,
Here.
Cox,
Here.
Davis, Turkey,
Here.
Graves.
Here. Here. Let's say the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Take a moment of silence if they like. Take a motion to approve the agenda with the one addition, the job description for the equipment manager. So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Everyone's got a copy of the previous meeting's minutes. If there are no additions or corrections, they'll stand approved as presented. We have one visitor, Faith Dees. There was no public comment sent in, so we'll move on to the chief's report.
This is a pretty short one, as I was out of town training last week. Our call volume up pretty substantially, 20% for the month of February, higher than it was last year. Don't really have a explanation for that, other than just more calls. There was less refusals, I think, and more 911 calls. Actually ran fewer transfers than January, but other than the volume, I didn't have any big shocks. We only ran 77 down in Windsor, but we are getting a fair amount of transfers from Golden Valley at this time. It's my understanding there's a new administration for the ambulance side of things down there, and we're trying to figure that all out, because once they get in place, we got to redo mutual aid agreements with them, but that's just the ambulance, that's not the hospital. So that's kind of in flux. The vehicle mileage, like I said, we've got one more in the yellow, just a little bit, which is unit 3. That's a 2019 AEV unit with 152,000 on it. We do have some repairs ongoing. I will brief the board on that at a later time. One of them has got some bad lifters, and some of the repairs we've talked about before are ongoing. So nothing major. Operational changes, nothing major equipment, stair chair disposition, if I'm not mistaken, that is an agenda item tonight, so I won't get into that. Yes. Let's see. The Continuum software, we'll still be setting up. As I said, I was out of town last week, so we didn't get anything going on that. This says approximately 4 to 5 weeks. I'm hoping it's about half that in all reality before we get it set up. Really, the only issues with it now is it's tweaking it to pick up all of our data. It's not picking up the Windsor data for some reason. We know it's coming out of the CAD system from downtown here, but it's not incorporating what we put in there, since Henry County doesn't use CAD. We just have to manually figure out how to get that back in there. So not a big deal, but it's not accurate data at this point. Let's see. Our service license, it's been radio silence on that. I did tell the inspector that I would be go on last week, so I anticipate hearing from her between now and the next board meeting. There is an EMS day at the Capitol. I don't know if you guys remember that from last year. They essentially spend the first day going through legislative updates, any kind of things we need to speak to our representatives, senators and representatives about. We get all kinds of updates, and there's a lot going on right now with billing and some of the EMS law that's out there. There's a lot of changes in place, so I'm anxious to see what all's going on there. That's hosted, I think, primarily by the Missouri Ambulance Association, but it's kind of put on by all of the groups in Missouri. So it's a nice day. All of the district administrators go up there and we'll wear our class A's up there and our funny hats and meet some congressmen and hopefully, just to figure out what's going on at the Capitol. So it's just a good day to kind of get your face in the door and get seen up there. So we'll be going to that on the 10th and the 11th of April. There's a flyer attached in the back. It should be, the last page there. It's all the events that we'll be doing up there. It's a whopping $15 to attend. We did have several staff members go out to some storm spotter training. Tricia Ruda up there at EMA hosted that. Great big turnout. There was probably 100 people in that room, and I think PCAD had about 6 from our staff, maybe 7. So we had a good presence out there. Storm spotter training. We're not going to do it, but it's always very good training to identify the dangerous stuff when you're driving around running calls in this kind of weather. So it is the season. Nothing going on with the union right now. Any kind of policy changes are agenda items as well, so I won't go into them. We do have one paramedic out for an extended medical leave, minimum 6 months. But it's out of their control, so we'll on deck, but unfortunately they won't be able to work for at least 6 months, so we'll probably have to do a leave of absence type thing. Several PRN positions have been filled. We're orienting those as we speak. As I told you guys last time, we got rid of a lot of the PRN folks that weren't putting any hours. Some of them they've been coming to classes occasionally, but they weren't giving us any shifts and just couldn't fit it into their schedule. So we cut them loose and we're backfilling those PRN positions. All of those positions are actually orienting right now. So when they're off orientation, I think I told you guys this last time, didn't hire any of them full time right now. We put them on orientation so we can kind of pick and choose who goes full time at the end of that. So other than that, like I said, it's a little brief, but that's all I've got for you guys tonight.
Are there any questions, Greg? If not, we'll move on to the CFO report.
And I'm gonna make up for your briefness. I got a lot of stuff here.
It felt a little weighty.
So first thing, good news, we did receive that grant we applied for the Missouri Department of Public Safety, the $20,000 matching grant. That was for the mule and the side rails for cops. So it just signed those. There's a couple other things we have to do. We have to attend a compliance workshop and then submit that we accept the grant, and then we can order the mule and get started on those. We received Windsor's check today. And then I had a question about insurance and why we're not in network. So most ambulance districts are not in network. We've been advised by our attorney to not be in network. The reasons are insurance usually pays just a portion of what it costs is all they'll pay. So we do accept all insurance. It's just we're out of network. We don't have a contract with any insurance. The only ones we do, we're required CMS, Medicare, Medicaid, we have to. And then most insurance will pay as if in network due to an emergency. So I don't know how much people are aware of that, but a lot of times if you push back with your insurance company and say, hey, this was an emergency, I didn't have a choice of who I used, they might go ahead and pay that as if it was in network. And then the patient's always responsible for deductible and copays. So that always depends on the coverage that the person has, the patient has. So we have no control over that. Any other questions on that? Yes, sir.
Which, I get the right term here, Medicare supplement
Mhm.
is the most common here locally. Is it United?
There's several. There's nothing that's more common
There's
than
none that's
another.
dominating that.
No, we have a lot of United Healthcare. We have a lot of Blue Cross Blue Shield. We have
Okay.
just
I just
a lot.
wondered if
It's
we were-
sometimes it's hard to tell even that it is a Medicare supplement. So, but yeah, no, we don't have anything that's one more than the other. And we do have a lot more managed care for Medicaid, and then a lot more of those Advantage plans. We're seeing a lot more of that, which leads to more deductibles for the patient, less income to us.
And do those tend toward one particular vendor?
No,
Okay.
no, because they're all for the entire state. So, no.
Jamie,
Yes, sir.
would it be true to say that those that are on private insurance, they're under retirement age, they're not on Medicare or Medicaid, those insurance companies are less likely to be compassionate with ambulance services? Because it seems like Medicare, Medicaid would obviously know that their clients are gonna have emergencies because of the age and disabilities and whatnot.
It just depends on the plan. Some plans disallow any ambulance.
Well, what I was trying to get at is on any complaints from, I'm sure we have people that complain about being charged. So those mostly come from those that are not retirement age.
Yeah, it's usually people with private insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we have very few actually people that complain about their bill, but yeah, the few that do.
And you had told me that, you know, if we were in their,
We had a contract, we were in the network.
yeah, in network, we have to have it with every company in the country because people drive through.
Yeah, there's no way we can
We
have.
don't know who's gonna have an emergency, so
Mhm.
when the public asks us, you know, why aren't you in network? Well, we have to be in network with all the insurance companies in the country. And that's would be almost impossible to manage.
Yeah, and if, you know, this is actually an email from Frank Foster. This was probably one of his last emails he sent us from 2021. The same thing, you know, that if we accepted network rates, we'd either have to cut services or we'd have to increase taxes, which at this point, we can't increase taxes, so we have to cut services. So. But, it is looking more and more like the No Surprises Act is gonna affect us soon. And when that does, there might be a change in that. And it may not be, but right now, we're exempt from that No Surprises Act.
Yeah, it's just air ambulances that are under there.
And any hospital based.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions on that? Okay, so page 4 is this is our provider relief fund reporting for phase 4. There's no real numbers until page 6. About 2/3 of the way down, you'll see that total American Rescue Plan rural payments. We got 119,577.16. That was back in November of 2021, and now we have to report on that money, how it was used. So you turn the page, this is the same information again, it's just saying that we have reportable payments of 119,000. And then page 9, That is what we've reported in the past for other support we received during COVID, which was just from the local, state, and tribal government assistance that we received. All of that money was earmarked for payroll. And then you'll see at the bottom of that page, page 9, and the top of page 10 there, unreimbursed expenses attributable to coronavirus. So there's $626,443.05. That is the equipment we purchased in Q4 2020, Q1 2021, and Q2 of 2021. We haven't used those expenses yet against our provider relief fund payments. So then you'll see our total revenue, patient care 2019 actuals. That's what everything is compared against all the following years to figure out what our lost revenue was. So our lost revenue is on the page, bottom of page 11 and top of page 12. It shows the differences there for each year. So 2020 was 280,000, 2021 almost 52,000, and 22 was 40,000. And our cumulative lost revenues total was $373,080.58. And that's the same information that is on the page, bottom of page 12, the lost revenue summary. It shows the 373,000, and then it shows previous payments that we used against lost revenue. So we've used $47,746.26 in previous years, or I guess reporting periods, because they're not all years. And that left $325,000. We are using our ARP funds against our lost revenue. So if we look at page 13, we still have $205,787.16 in lost revenues for all of these periods from 2020 to current, to the end of 2021 is what this reporting period is. And you'll see 13, 14, 15, there's a bunch of personnel metrics. That's just a survey. They're just asking that information. That didn't have anything to do with our provider relief fund payments. It was just a way for them to collect some data. And then patient metrics, those are all zeros because we don't have any place for inpatients, outpatients, emergency department, any of those types of items. We don't have any of those, so those are all zeros. Any questions on that? I know it's a lot of numbers and information, but try to hit the big numbers that affect this report. So if you guys approve of that, I will go ahead and submit that. It's due by the 31st of the month. Page 17, I just wanted to show you guys where we were at for round 5 reporting. That period of availability is January 1st, 2020 to June 30th, 2023. And we received $314,118.91 during that period. So we're going to use that $205,000 of lost revenue and then a portion of those unreimbursed COVID expenses. So we still have $518,081.30 of unreimbursed COVID expenses for that period. So idea of how COVID affected us for that period. Any questions?
I understood you right. We have 518,000 of COVID-related expenses that are costs.
That's going to be unreimbursed.
Yeah, that comes out of our budget. Yeah.
And I gave you the details of what that 626,000, what that was made up of. So it was the ventilators, UVAs, disinfectant lights, ventilators, glucose devices, catheters, air scrubbers.
A lot of this equipment has pretty good shelf life and
Yes.
upgraded our, so it was actually kind of investment, forced investment.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't have replaced our ventilators have not needed ventilators, so during that time.
All of this stuff is still very regularly used, so.
Okay, page 18, year-to-date budget performance for January. I didn't do any highlighting, it was just 1 month. And January and February are both always kind of a little weird because we're playing catch up both months. So, I mean, there's some information here. Employee costs were under budget for the month. Ambulance operations were under budget for the month. Professional fees looks over budget because it has 2 months worth in there. Same with the tip expense, it's got 2 months in there. So any questions on any of that? Overall, our revenue is over budget as well. 44,000. Page 19 is our budget performance details. And again, this is just the details of all of those summary numbers. It is compared to the annual budget. So 1 month is about 8% of the budget. So again, you'll see that total operating revenue is over budget. Almost double there. Total operating expenses are under budget at 7.1%. So for January, pretty good. Any questions on any of those expenses or revenues? Okay. Page 23 and 24 is the balance sheet for January. And just shows us our assets, liabilities, and the net of those. Compared to same time last year, so you can see the increase in checking and savings and total current assets. Profit and loss previous year comparison, page 25 through 28. Basically the same information on expenses compared to last year. Those 2 pieces of capital purchase expenses was a Life Pack 15 charger and a washer and dryer. Any other expenses or questions on those expenses? Okay, page 29 is the summary of bills. And the details are on pages 30 through 32. And the credit card statement follows that. I did make a note on there. The highlighted charges, those were fraudulent. Those were turned into the bank and they are researching those currently to get those refunded to us. But did just want to point out that nobody here made those charges, so. Any questions on any of the bills? All right, I guess that is the end of this portion.
Any questions for Jamie? If not, I take a motion to receive the CFO report.
So
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. I will take a motion to approve payment of outstanding bills.
moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Move on to unfinished business, workers' compensation removal.
Okay, that starts on page 36. So the rates are on page 38. They lowered our rates last year. The 7705 ambulance service companies at EMS, that was 5.11%. And then the clerical office employees last year was 0.21%, and it's down to 0.18. So that is what MEM has put for the renewal, so that would be just estimating based on what we have budgeted for wages, about 21,000 less than last year.
How many years back do they go to calculate their average? Is it a
Oh,
5-year
I don't remember.
running average or
I feel like it's 3,
3?
but I'd have to ask.
But it does.
Yeah, things
One
do
bad
fall
year, you
off.
start.
Mhm. So last year we had maybe a couple small claims, but not really much. So that really helps. MEM, I think a lot of the reason they give us these deep discounts is because they have been here and seen all the safety equipment that we have in place. You know, we have everything that we can have to help,
And we can fix ourselves.
to a point. So you guys want to get other bids, or you want to? What do you guys want to do?
How many other companies are out there that would be inclined to bid?
I don't know that answer. I know that, Assured, I'm gonna say their name wrong, Assured Partners? Yes, Assured Partners has already put it out for marketing. And there is one company that may provide a quote, but the other one, it was rural.
That's wicked. I don't know what it is, but that's wicked. It's trust.
We had a good experience with MEM.
Yes, Missouri Rural Services, and it was extremely high.
Yeah, it seemed to give us good service.
I mean, we've had good luck with them. We do have the opportunity to apply for a grant for safety equipment, up to, I think it's up to $10,000, for those, pretty much what they're called, hydrants that we have budgeted for this year. So,
I don't think there's a lot of variance in companies on workers' comp, because it's kind of set.
yeah, it's based on our rating.
Yeah.
I mean, it can go higher, it can go lower, but
As long as they're easy to work with administratively, I see no reason to change.
No, I don't either.
So do we have a motion to approve the removal of that?
I would make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. Four. Last bid. Much a check in there.
it's for the bid bond.
Do you have anybody look that didn't bid?
No, we didn't have, we had lots of people inquire that didn't bid or look.
This is for Dugan's, 17,407.27.
It sounds similar to what they did originally before we put it out to bid. I did follow up with the other company that bid it previously, and they said they didn't think they were gonna bid this. Yeah, I have to look at this one's very similar to what we had originally.
Why are we requiring a bid bond on that?
Because of the cost. The statute says anything over, I think, I don't say it says 5,000.
Oh,
They did give us some references here too, so if you guys want, I'll check those references before the next meeting and you guys can decide which one to do.
Yeah, unless they're subbing out the installation anyway.
They all sub out the
Yeah,
installation.
if there's somebody they haven't worked with before, but yeah.
And actually, I do have a little inside knowledge, my husband did this for a very long time, but I don't know if do bids hires installers now, or if they are subcontractors, so. I don't know the answer to that. But I'll check the balances.
Mowing bids. There's two of those. Permits bid is price for 3-year term of $150 per mowing event.
Did you say that one?
Where
How many locations is that? Do we have?
It's just TT.
Okay. Close to the church.
we only have one for S and M mowing. They mow and trim, $60 each time. Certificate of insurance.
That's better than 150.
but that's weekly
That's
or
right.
as needed.
Eric, how would the as needed be handled?
Typically, I contact them midsummer. That's about the time grass stops growing, and they can cut down the frequency a little bit. Obviously, in the spring, it's pretty much a weekly need,
Sure.
but just stay in contact with them. They're generally good with coming out as we need.
But that decision, you make that decision and make that contact.
What? I have the rest now.
Yeah, I think there's
Is that the one that did it last year?
I didn't hear who it was.
S&M.
Where was it last year?
Yeah.
Yes.
yeah,
And it was 125
no,
a time.
S and what? S and,
S&M?
okay.
And they are insured.
No, they aren't.
They are. S&M is uninsured.
They are.
They are, okay, yeah. Say, give them a shot.
You know, he's less than half of it.
Significant difference.
So do we have a motion on the mowing bids?
Make a motion, we accept S and M.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign.
Very much take it goes to cost.
Disposal of surplus plus equipment, stair chairs.
We have, I'm trying to think of the number, it's either 4 or 5.
4.
4, yes, thank you, Jane. We have 4 stair chairs that are actually original equipment here at PCAD. We got rid of them last time for about $500 to $600 a piece. I would like to put those on gov deals, and dispose of them. We've kept what we needed out of them for training and backups for spares. But we basically have 4 extra stair chairs that a smaller service will undoubtedly want. And I anticipate we probably get the same price for them this time. So it'd be about roughly maybe up to $2,000.
Those proceeds would go back into
Just general.
general.
Yeah.
So we have a motion to put the stair chairs on gov deals.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Building contract.
In our strategic plan to bring billing in-house. Our contract is up on June 30th of this year. So this is the letter to cancel the contract effective June 30th. And to start working on bringing billing in-house. The remainder of all these items pretty much are working towards that goal of bringing billing in-house.
Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second? Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Billing software contract.
Okay, page 45 and 46 is just kind of a flyer of the billing software. We looked at Zoll and we looked at Instrand. Instrand is what we use for our patient care reporting, which would be really nice because it's all integrated. But Zoll is the only one that has some of the tools available. So they have a deductible management tool where we can see if the patient has met their deductible at the beginning of the year and wait and see if they meet their deductible before we bill. We can find insurance is another important item that Zoll has. There's just a click basically of a button and it searches the database for insurance and brings up what's available and what is in their name for us to be able to see, does that match what we have from the base sheets from the hospital? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Those base sheets could be years old if somebody hasn't been to the hospital for years. And get the right insurance, the right time, the first time. It has, what other tools did it have? Do you guys remember? It had so many tools.
We did, yeah.
So
Most of it's all on the flyer. I just wanted to point out, Zoll's they're at just about every conference, but I just met with some of them last week as well, out of that conference. And the thing I noticed about Zoll is the people who work for that company are almost all former EMS people, paramedics and so forth. Whereas some of the other companies, your standard business executives, these people have actually done EMS. I'm really impressed with the company so far. They've done us right on everything else. Like Jamie said, it'd be good to have something that would vertically integrate with what we have, but honestly, this whole stuff, I think, just works better.
yeah, and it does integrate with our patient care reporting software.
Yeah.
It's just not all in one place. We have to go to one other software, but it does bring everything from the patient care report in. So you can see the patient care report right there. You can see all the attachments right there in the billing program. So I also checked references. Everybody I called just loved the software. And I really just had to say, I'm calling because I was given your name for a reference on Zoll billing. Oh, I love that program. It's the best program. I wish I would have switched years ago. It was kind of just one little question and I finally say, okay, well, thank you, because we got on the phone for like an hour, and she was telling me all the great things, so, and there was another company I called in California, and it was basically the same thing, that they wish they had switched years ago, so.
The workflow of it also, I thought was pretty interesting. If, we're only gonna have a biller and a half over there actually doing the job. If you get to a point in that software where you get stuck, which happens frequently, as you can imagine, medical billing, it has a way of caching that and moving them on to something else so that they're productive the whole time. They're not just sitting there waiting on the phone call or something.
So how many billable calls did we have last year?
That would be all of our transports. Quick math, we ran 9,000 calls roughly.
8,000?
About a third of those are non-transports.
Yeah, it was more like, I want to say 6,500 is what our billable was.
Yeah.
So.
Did you have a question, John?
Yeah, it sounds like this would help us with our customer service, patients and hospitals. You know, communicating with them because we'll have the data of the deductibles and charges and all that kind of stuff. Is that right?
I don't know that it actually tells you, of course, everything they show you is, you know, demo data, so I don't know what it actually shows you as far as the deductible. A lot of those I can go to each insurance company and I can look that information up for the claim to see, you know, what's covered, what's not. I can go look that up, but that's a lot of time to go to each insurance
Yeah.
company for each patient. So
My math reveals that that would be about $27 per billable event. If you take your 175,000 annualized and divide it by 6,000.
that's for 3 years,
That's
3 years or 5 years.
All right, so divide that by 3 and we're down to $9 then.
It's $4.75 per claim.
So it's 5 divided by 5 years. Then. Okay, well, that doesn't seem like
Yeah, it's $4, yeah,
an
60 months right here. I was
expensive
looking at it.
luxury.
Yeah.
When you break it down, so I don't want to figure out per billing event.
And that $4.75
Saves a lot of time that we're paying otherwise.
it includes our clearinghouse, which is what is used for electronic billing. It includes mailing all of our invoices and statements, printing and mailing them, the paper, the invoice, all of that. That's all in that $4.75.
Sold me.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know,
I just wanted to look for how it reached out.
yeah, sorry. So the way it works is I told them to go ahead and up that to 7,000 billable calls for 2023. Well, I guess it'll be for the starting in, when we start billing in July to the next year. Because we don't get charged till we start billing. The other things on this quote are 2 passes to go to the Zoll Summit, which is their conference. I kind of just looked today just to see what that amounted to, because that was another thing, the references indicated was a very, very good conference, because it's all Zoll users together, tips and tricks between each other, and they're all billing with Zoll billing, so there's a lot of networking and information you can get from that, plus all of the actual conference. It's in Denver in June, I believe.
That's what you told me, right?
Yeah, June 13th through the 15th, oh, I remember right there. And I just looked to see what kinds of classes they would have, and it's very similar. Some of the items are very similar to the ABC 360, but a lot of them are product specific on the best way to close out a month, best reports to look at, the AR optimization, how you can use the tools within the billing program to get the best bang for your buck. So I don't know if that's something that we need to do, but it will be in June, right before we go live. So I would think it would be a good thing to do, to learn from other people that are using the software as we've already set it up, but haven't started using it. So the other items on here is an AR consulting. That is 5 days, and they do that, I think he said about 6 months after you start.
Yeah.
Again, to make sure that you are using all the tools that are available, so you are getting everything you can out of the billing software. So that is all the items that are in that quote. And it is a 5-year quote. So, and what they do is they bill us based on that 7,000 claims per month. And then at the end of the year, they chew it up and see how many claims we actually billed, and either send us a bill or give us.
So they do adjust its actual usage.
Correct.
Okay.
Are there any other questions on the billing software? Not, I'd take a motion to approve that contract.
So
Do we have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Ambulance billing specialist.
So the ambulance billing specialist would be more experienced person, kind of over the billing. Let's say department, because it's gonna be about 2 people, but basically that department, they would also be billing, but they'd also be in charge of making sure the other billers are doing what they need to. They would have more responsibility. I have that budgeted at $18 an hour plus benefits, and for this year, I have it for 9 months. So starting by April 1st. So any questions on that description?
Have you already interviewed anybody for that, or?
No, I have not put this out until you guys approve it. I don't know what kind of response we'll get.
I've called due to problems with credit cards or something, and sometimes the service people, don't seem very compassionate or understanding. And, our compassionate care while providing excellence in service, we need to make sure that whoever is answering the phone is being very gentle with, because people are gonna be upset sometimes when they call.
Mhm.
And I think that's an important, their voice quality and just that they care about people. So I didn't notice that in there necessarily. I don't know how you would write it, but I'm hoping that that's what we will be looking for as well.
Any other questions on the billing specialist job description? Now I would take a motion to approve that. So, do we have a second? Sorry. In favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign.
I'm sorry, I forgot I was doing it.
Admin.
Okay.
Ambulance billing associate.
And this person will just be a biller. They will not have the other responsibilities. So there's not quite as many just. And it doesn't really say compassionate, but it does excellent verbal and written communication skills to present and explain information to customers in a desired manner consistent with procedures.
I'm assuming you interview, or I don't know who does interview, you have like several people, a couple people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
For this position.
I'm assuming you look for that.
yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
so how we did it when we hired Katie, I did the first interview and narrowed it down to just a few, and then I pulled other people and
Yeah.
interviewed those few again. And this, the ambulance billing associate, I don't foresee hiring them until June sometime, because we'll need them to do some training. But we won't need them to do anything until we go live July 1st. So that's kind of what I foresee for that position. We might go ahead and advertise it, but it won't be filled till.
So this 60 days, they have to obtain their certified ambulance coder certificate on their own pre-hire.
No, we do it, but I'm just saying within 60 days of hire, they have to complete it. Because it's online process that they have to go through.
Okay,
So we can't
that's 60.
be working on it for 12 months.
Within 60 days of hire, it's not pre
Right.
60 days. It's-
Yeah, if they don't have that certification,
All right, thank you.
we'll get it.
And then we approve it.
Do we have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, same sign. EMS instructor. job description.
All right, you want me to take this one?
Yeah, you go for it.
I know you're probably getting tired of talking. This is part of our budget. This was the part-time instructor we talked about assisting EMT classes and so forth. Justin put this job description together, sent it out to us. We kind of kicked it back and forth between each other, and this is what we came up with. It is gonna be a paramedic position. There was some talk about possibly putting an EMT in it, but we've got far too many ALS level classes that have to be taught, and you can only teach 2 licensure, so it does have to be a paramedic position. The knowledge and skills, those are all pretty basic as far as, you know, at the end of the day, they need to be able to help Justin do whatever involving education. So basically trying to cover all of that in here. They essentially have the same qualifications as a paramedic. You know, they're gonna have an ACLS card. They will have a PALS card, which is a pediatric advanced life support card. They'll get the smorgasbord of certifications that we have here and become instructors and so on. So this is pretty much spells that all out.
Are there any questions on the EMS instructor position?
Is that not going to be somebody in-house or is that going to be?
They can apply for it if they want. It just depends, you know, I don't think, obviously we wouldn't be able to hire somebody at an overtime rate that's already here full time. But there's every possibility we could have people in-house that apply for it and maybe want to cut their hours back or do something outside of their normal scope.
But would it be like we couldn't pay for them, would it?
No. Well, the hourly, is the hourly list, I don't think the hourly is listed.
No, we have a budget, I mean, we have a budget at $25 an hour,
Yeah.
but it's just a part-time
Based
position,
on.
so there's
20
no
hours.
overtime, there's no, you know,
On a 20-hour week, right? Not 21.
yeah, I mean,
Just.
I just have it as part-time, I don't,
Yeah.
we don't have it really set that it has to be 20 hours a week, it
Right.
could be 41, nothing the next.
Right.
Any other questions?
Sure. I just have one thing.
Just
What these classes that they'll be teaching, are we gonna have minimum enrollments before the class makes, or how does that work?
you know, we're always shooting for, you know, as many as we can get in here within, well, as many as will fit. Typically, like an EMT class is 12 to 15 people and you're out of room. Some of the other classes, you have more or less space depending upon that, but yeah, we always try and fill them. We haven't had to cancel a class because of low enrollment. I mean, every now and then we don't get enough people to sign up, so we don't have a class, you know.
That's what I was wondering, what that minimum number is, and then we're gonna try and solicit people from the area to participate in these training sessions.
Yeah, we've opened the doors to anybody around here who wants to participate, assuming, you know, within reason. Most of the time, they're gonna wanna come is because of, what I'll call alphabet soup classes, which is your pre-hospital trauma life support, your ACLS, all the certifications that we have.
But we will actively contact them.
Absolutely, yeah, okay. And we're affiliated with Bothwell, with our American Heart Association too, so we automatically, you know, we'll go help them, they can come help us, yeah.
Sure.
Benefit. The primary instructor, just to clarify, Mr. Brown's question, primary instructor is responsible for a whole lot more as far as keeping our certification, for the, you know, service inspection, all of the administrative stuff, whereas this would be pretty much just a clinical instructor and evaluator type person. So, yeah, like I said, it's a competitive comparable wage for paramedics.
Would this be a job that, you've told me a couple times over the last 3 years, you know, how stressful the job is. And somebody's maybe getting burned out and starting to feel, you know, they just need to take a little time off and then step back from being active. Would that be something they could step into and kind of calm that down?
As far, oh, you mean like coming off the truck and into that position?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's obviously where a lot of instructors come from. People who've been in the field a while, and that's who you want teaching, it's somebody with a lot of, you know,
Yeah.
a lot of bark on their trees.
Because we would know them and, you know, the trust levels there,
Yeah,
the relationship that.
absolutely.
You know, I can
It's a
see
nice-
that.
It's a nice step, you know, we've talked about community program, paramedic programs, and you guys will hear more about that in the future. But it's one of those paths to retirement type issues too, so a lot of, you know, older folks might be interested in it, just as a way to come off the truck, needs wear out, back back to you about it. That's it. Yeah, great question.
Any other questions or comments? I'll take a motion to approve that job description.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. One more job description, equipment manager.
Our current equipment manager has moved to an FTO position, a field training officer position. And rather than do both jobs, we're opening up the next one. I believe that's the one we have. Yeah, that's the loose piece of paper. They take care of all our equipment, obviously. They also are in charge of, it gets a little complex when you have multiple stations like this, especially when you have multiple stations when it comes to returns, service agreements, getting stuff shipped back, getting loaners sent out, and having one person do it is absolutely essential. Otherwise it'd just be a crazy mess. So they have a lot of contact with the vendors for repairs and returns, as well as what's on here, the hard equipment, basically, that just means medical equipment. Generally speaking, that's the high dollar items, but it also includes some of the lower dollar stuff, like a suction, portable suction unit. That's not a, huge budget item, but it's a crucial piece of equipment. So they keep track of all that stuff on the trucks. Basically, if it isn't attached to the ambulance and it's not considered a medical supply, it's in there wrapped. So the difference on this is highlighted in red. Essentially, we wanted to open that up to EMTs. Unlike the paramedic position, this doesn't need ALS skills. The EMTs here actually all know how to operate the vents and the monitors, so there's really not anything that are lacking as far as that goes. So we wanted to just broaden our horizon as far as who can apply for that position. And have an EMT, I think is a good idea. I've done it before as an EMT way back in the day. Of course, our equipment was made out of wood back then.
Questions on that job description?
Not as long as the EMTs are as familiar as needed with the equipment.
Absolutely.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve that position?
I'll make it.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Since we have no new business, are there any announcements?
Did we need to approve the provider relief fund report? Did we do that?
I can submit it. I just wanted you guys to see it. You guys have any questions?
I have one thing popped up, it's a question of having policies. When I went to that board training, they were, you gotta make sure you do this, you gotta make sure you do that, and gift policy, do we have a detailed gift policy?
I believe that's in general compliance. Are you talking about gifts to employees?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's all covered under the bill.
same with social media
Absolutely.
and public recording policy, we're on that. And the only other thing that showed up is that, and make sure to emphasize this, 100% of your investments are insured. And that was. Yeah, well, that was kind of pressure because since then we had started the bank failure thing again, so.
I'm sure about longer term.
Well, that's just a few things that I wanted to make sure of because they were stressing.
Yeah. Monty was that who was teaching the class with Monty?
No, it was Charlie.
Okay. Yeah, those guys do a good job.
Yeah.
Putting the fear into you, that's for sure. I've taken that several times, but yeah, we've got insurance on it.
Are there any other announcements? Now then take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye.